Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to add player building system v2 to your own projects. So for this video, I'm going to be using just the standard third person template and I'm going to be adding player building system to that. Depending on your project and what you already have in there may be some differences. I'll try and point out where these differences are as we go along. But to get started, you're going to want to make a player building system v2 project like I've got here. And we're going to right click the main folder and we'll do migrate. And we will hit OK. And we're going to migrate to your project. So for me, that is the video one I've got here. And we're just going to select content and hit select folder. And that will copy the files over to our new project. Next, I'm just going to go over to the project that I've created for this video, and you can see we've got our player building system folder here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to settings, then project settings. I'm just going to bring this over to here, and we're going to go to the collision tab. And in here, we're going to create a new channel, and we're going to call this build part. And we're going to set the default response to block, and then we're going to create a new one, and we're going to call this build grid, and we're going to set this to block as well and hit accept. Next, we're going to click new trace channel and we're going to call this one grid, and we're going to leave it as block, and we're going to create another one. We'll call this top down, and this will be set to ignore. And last, we will create one called interaction, and we'll leave this one as block and hit accept. Next, we're going to click the preset drop down and hit new, and we're going to call this preset build preview. You need to make sure that the capitals are all the same as mine, and we are going to set this to query only, and the object type will be world dynamic, and then we're going to set this to, we'll just take ignore at the top here, and then we'll just go through and hit these. Click these all to overlap like that. Oh, apart from grid, which we want to be ignore, and then we can hit accept. There's a couple of other presets we want to change. So I'm going to open up trigger, and I'm going to set this to ignore the camera and also ignore grid, and we can hit accept. And also spectator, we want to ignore the interaction, and we want to ignore grid and hit accept. Next, we're going to go back to our level, and we're going to go to the player building system folder, and we'll just search for master grid, and we'll open that up. I'll just bring that over here. And in here, we're going to go to the collision category, and we're going to select the first channel here. And mine's already set to grid, but if yours isn't, you can set it to grid. And a good way to see what these variables should be set to, if you hover over them, you can see it actually says this should be set to grid. So make sure yours is set to grid. Then we'll do the same here. This should be set to build grid. Mine is already set there. So we're okay in here. Next, we'll go to the master build part. And we'll open that up. And you can see we've actually got a few errors in here. So one thing we do need to do before we continue is we're going to go to settings, plugins, bring that over here, and we're going to search for DES, and we want to enable Apex Destruction. We are going to have to restart, so we'll just click the save all, and then we will restart our project quickly. So I've just restarted my project, so we're just going to go back to our master build part quickly. And I'll bring this over here. And you can see our errors are all gone now. So over in the variables, we're just going to go to collision. And again, we'll select our collision variable here. And you can see it says this should be top down. And it is already set to top down. And the same for build part object type. It should be set to build part, which mine is. I'm just showing you these because sometimes they can change when you migrate a project. So just so you know where to check. And then lastly, we're going to go to the building component, player building component. We'll open this up, and then we're going to find the collisions. And we're just going to go through these very quickly. So this should be build part, which it is. This should be set to grid, which it is. Build part, top down, grid, and build grid. So all of our collisions are set up correctly. Next, we're going to set up the game mode. Now, if you don't have your own game mode that you need to use in your project, then you can just use the PBS game mode that Player Building System comes with. And to set that, all you have to do is go to Project Settings, Maps and Modes, and then default game mode you can just set to PBS game mode. If it's not already set to that, you can just find that here. But if you do have your own custom game mode, I'll quickly show you how to set that up. So I'm just going to use the third person game mode that comes with the template. So I'm just going to open that up, open in Full Editor, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to Class Settings, Add, and I'm going to search for Game, and I'm going to add the game mode, and I'm just going to compile. Next, I'm going to go back to our showcase, and I'm actually going to open up the PBS game mode because there's some stuff in here that we're going to copy and paste. So I'm just going to go to the event graph, highlight these and copy them, and then we're just going to paste those in here. If I hit compile, we should get an error, which is fine. We can click this, and I'm just going to right click the variable and do create variable save system, compile again, and we'll just click one of these, and again we'll right click, do create variable and compile, and all our errors should be gone now. Next, we're going to do, click on the get resource manager. We'll drag out and do get resource, and we want the get resource manager. Then we're going to select the get save game, and we'll do the same. We'll do get save game like that, and we'll just compile. Next, we're going to go over to the override, and we're going to find the spawn default pawn at transform, which is here, and that's going to create a new function for us. Now we're going to go back to the PBS game mode quickly, and in game we'll find that function, and we're just going to do Control A and then Control C, and we're going to paste that in here, and we'll connect it up like this. And we can actually delete this return node, and we'll hit compile, and we've got a couple of errors. That's fine. We'll just right click this variable and do create local variable, hit compile again, and all our errors should be gone. So that's all okay, and we can just hit save. Now we've pretty much set up our game mode, and we can use this one now instead of the PBS. So I'm actually going to set that to our third person game mode, just so we can test that it's all working correctly. Next, we need to set up our controller. Now, same as the game mode, if you have your own controller that you need to use, I'll show you how to do that quickly in a second. But if you don't have your own controller, you can just use the player building system one. To do that, go to whatever game mode you're using. So for example, I'm using my third person game mode, and then in here we can find the player controller class. I'm just going to set this to the PBS controller. If you're using your own controller, all you need to do is, and I can show you this in the PBS controller, you can open up your controller, and all you need to do is add the player building component here. To do that, just click add component, search for player building component, and you can click that. Again, if you're using the PBS controller, it's already got that, so you don't need to add that, but you will need it in your own custom controller if that's something you're doing. So now one of the last steps is setting up our character. Again, if you don't have a character that you need to use, then I would recommend just using the player building system character. To do that, you can just go to your game mode, and then in here you can set the default pawn class to the PBS character, and it will just automatically spawn that for us when we hit play. But if you do have your own character, I'll quickly show you now how to set that up. So for this video, I'm going to be using the third person character that comes with the third person template. What we're going to do is we're going to open that up. I'm also going to open up the PBS character because we're going to copy some stuff over from this. So the first thing we're going to need to do is if we want our different cameras, we're going to need to actually add those to our new character. Again, your character may be set up very differently. You may already have multiple cameras. That sort of stuff is going to be down to you to work out. I can't make a video for everyone's character setups, but I'll show you quickly how to add these cameras to your character if that's something you want to do. I'm just going to select the first person camera, copy that, and we'll select the capsule component and paste that in. And then next we'll copy the spring arm, and I'll just paste that in. And then the same with the camera, I'll copy and I'll paste that in, and I'm just going to drag that onto the spring arm like that, and we can hit compile. The next thing that you need to add to your character is go to class settings, then we're going to add a new interface, and we're just going to search for character, and we're going to add that one, and then hit compile again. Next we're going to create a new function, so we'll click the new function and we'll call this change camera, and we'll add a new input, and this will be e_camera type, and we'll call this selection. And we can now go to our PBS character and just double click the change camera function. We're just going to copy and paste these and paste that into the new function we just created like so, and connect it up like this. Now I'm going to compile. We're going to have a few errors that we're going to need to fix. So the first one, we're going to right click on allow camera change and do create variable like that. Next we can we'll just drag out from selection and connect this up to true, and then we're going to right click starting camera and do create variable starting camera. Next for these we're going to do get the follow camera, plug that into here and delete the grayed out one. I'm just going to copy this, and basically we're just going to replace all the places where it says third person camera with our follow camera, and we'll delete the third person camera. And then our first person camera is the first person camera 1, so I'm just going to replace all the places that says first person camera with our first person camera 1 like this. And then lastly we've got camera 1, and we're just going to replace all the places that says camera, so we'll plug these in like this. Next we're going to right click the current camera, do create variable, and then lastly we'll compile again. We'll leave this errored node here for a moment. Next we're going to create another new function, and we're going to call this select next camera, and then we're going to go back to our PBS character, go to the same function, and we're just going to copy this. Before we add this, we just need to add an output, and it'll be e_camera type, and we'll just call it output like that. And then we'll paste in our nodes that we copied and just connect it up like this. We're going to right click the camera array and do local variable, create local variable, and then camera types we'll do create variable. And the rest of that looks fine, so we can hit compile. Next we're going to go to the PBS character, then to the event graph, and we're just going to copy all of these nodes, and we're going to go to the event graph of our new character blueprint and paste those in and hit compile. Now we're going to go to inputs, and we can right click any one of the player building component nodes. We'll do create variable and hit compile again. Next we're going to go to we'll click the server load save, and we'll double click this, and what we'll do is we'll do Control A, and then we'll right click and do refresh nodes and then compile again. Then we can go to our change camera function here, and we'll just create a new one that's fine. And we'll compile that quickly. There's a few other errors that we need to do. This one can just be refreshed and hit compile. Here we're going to change this to the change character, like so. Hit compile again. Then there's a few more. We just need to right click and refresh this node. Now the last ones are to do with inputs. So this is going to depend on your project's settings for your movement. So for example, this character blueprint already had move forward and move right inputs as well as the turn ones. I'm just going to delete these because we've just pasted in ones, we've just pasted in some other ones. But if you already have your own movements system, you can actually delete the ones that we've just pasted in. So you could delete these and these, but I'm going to delete the ones that came with the third person character. So I'm going to delete these and we'll hit compile. And you shouldn't have any more errors left. If you do, you can click on where it says the error is, and you may need to refresh a node. You may need to replace an errored node with possibly the change character function, but you shouldn't have any more errors in here now. And we can save that quickly. Just a couple more steps now. So we're going to go to interfaces, character, then change camera. And in here, we'll drag out from our current camera and do select. And then we'll do current camera and we'll paste this, we'll connect this to index. Then we'll get our first person camera, that'll plug into first person. Then we'll get our follow camera, that'll go into third, and then camera 1 will go into top down. Your camera names might not be exactly the same as mine. You may have your own cameras or whatever else, but I mean it's fairly self-explanatory. You plug the third person camera into third person, first person into first person, and top down into top down, like that. Then we'll just connect the current camera to camera type, and then we'll take the camera boom, and we'll connect that up to the current spring arm, like that. Then lastly, we'll just go to the change camera and we'll just add in our change character node and connect this up to the camera to selection and to the output, and we'll tick the return node and hit compile. Next, we are going to set our settings. So allow camera change. If this is true, then we can toggle between camera views. If it's false, we can't. So I'm just going to set mine to true. Starting camera, I'm going to set mine to, we'll set it to third person. Current camera, that we can just leave alone. Camera types, these are the camera views that we can switch to. So I'm just going to add all of them. So I'll do third person, first person, and top down, and we can hit compile. Lastly, we are going to go to our viewport, so we'll just double click any of the components here, and in here you may want to adjust your top down camera. So right now it's just looking directly straight. You may want to rotate it down a little bit. It's completely down to you. You can spend as much time as you want adjusting this and getting that how you want it to be. I'm just going to rotate mine like that. Now, there's a few extra things you might need to do depending on your level. So the first thing I'd recommend is putting the save system actor into your level so that the save system can work. You can find all the settings on the side here. And lastly, because I'm in a level where the floor is actually a static mesh, we're going to need to tell the building system that we are allowed to build on this static mesh. So to do that, I'm just going to go to the building, player building component. If your level's floor is just a landscape, like a normal landscape, you won't need to do this, but just because mine's a mesh, I just need to add the static mesh to the floor static meshes. So I'll just copy this, go to our building component, click add, and I'll paste this in. So the system knows that that's a floor that we can build on. Okay, so we're ready to test this out. I can jump in the level and hit play. and we're now using the third person character, and if I hold F down, we can bring up the build menu. I can click to select them, and I can start building, and our grid snapping is all working as it should do, and our HUD is as well. If I hit V, our camera views are switching as they should, and everything seems to be working well. If you have any problems with your grids not snapping, you need to double check what we did at the beginning of the video with the collision settings, and also the variables that we checked were set as the tooltip said to set them. So you need to double check those. If your menus aren't coming up when you press the inputs, you may, if you already have inputs set up on your character, you may have two input nodes happening. So I'll show you quickly. If we go to the inputs here, if you already have, say, an E input doing something else in your project, you may need to select it and uncheck consume input. By default, all of the player building inputs have this ticked off already, but the ones in your project that you might have already there probably won't have them unchecked. So you can see V's actually got it checked on. So you want to make sure that this is unchecked. And what that will do is basically allow multiple input events to work together instead of only one of them working. So that's something to keep in mind if you've already got a character with a lot of stuff set up. So that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. Thank you for watching.